As I was watching the trailer for season 3 of Reacher just the other week, it suddenly hit me that I haven't made any sort of video at all about this franchise, despite having read several of the best-selling books written by Lee Child. It's likely that by the time this video gets up on YouTube, that third season will have had its first few episodes on Amazon Prime Video already. But just in case you aren't familiar with the works of Lee Child and his fictional man-mountain, mystery-solving, former military police officer Jack Reacher, well, allow me to bring you up to speed. Essentially, Reacher is the modern-day equivalent to Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name, or David Carradine's Kane from Kung Fu, in which he is a loner that wanders from place to place, with no ties or responsibilities, going to wherever the notion takes him, which admittedly does sound like a pretty good life. But one thing that Reacher seems to have a knack for is being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he soon encounters a series of unexpected events that lead to a mystery that requires a solution, and bad guys who require a good arse kicking. Upon reading the opening pages of that very first Jack Reacher novel, Killing Floor, I was instantly a fan of the series. And it is that very same first novel that I'll be reviewing here today. So, without further ado, let's take a look. The Jack Reacher books in order. The Jack Reacher novels are predominantly self-contained plots with some reoccurring characters, mostly connected to Reacher's past, so it's very easy to get into them as a series. You aren't required to read these books in any sort of order. You are left free to just cherry pick and choose a story at will, in a way that is very similar to the James Bond films before MGM felt the need to have them all tied together for some reason. I myself am in no rush to read them in the order that they came out in. I have been reading these books as I've come across them in bookshops and charity shops, and as you can see, I have acquired a nice little collection so far. However, having said that, it does make sense to begin with the very first book in the series, Killing Floor, as this serves as our introduction to the character, and this is the book that was later adapted into season 1 of the Amazon original series. Speaking of which, comparisons to the Amazon adaptations are going to be inevitable, especially if I end up reviewing further books in the series. However, it is unlikely that I'll be focusing too much on the film adaptations. Tom Cruise might have a superhuman work ethic and be freakishly fit and energetic for someone of his age, but no amount of shrewd camera angles and casting of shorter actors in other parts can disguise the fact that Cruise could ever be mistaken for the 6'5", 250-pound Reacher as depicted in the books. Luckily, the more recent Amazon series has sensibly cast literal brick shithouse Alan Ritchson as the title character, who is exactly the type of person I had in mind when reading these books. A blend of Rambo-esque primal strength and brutality, backed up by Rain Man-esque levels of high IQ, intelligence and awareness. So with all that in mind, let's get on with the review, which might contain a few unflagged spoilers, along with plenty of swearing, sex and violence. You know, all the good stuff. Killing Floor, written in 1997, is the one that started it all, and straight out of the gate we have what will become that classic Reacher trope of where he doesn't necessarily go looking for trouble, but he has a tendency to walk into it. Reacher arrives in the small Georgian town of Margrave for no other reason than because one of his favourite jazz musicians grew up there, and he just wants to go and see the place. Again, that's how this guy rolls. Anyway, Reacher, don't call him Jack, is just settling down to a nice slice of pie and a cup of black coffee when he suddenly gets arrested for murder and thrown in jail where he has, shall we say, a bit of a disagreement with his fellow prisoners. Needless to say, he quickly and brutally shows them the error of their ways and manages to clear his name, but not before discovering that one of the murder victims was his own brother, Joe. And, well, Reacher's solution to this is simple.
We'll kill every last one of them.
From that point forward, his objective is to uncover the activities of his brother in Margrave, the reasons behind his murder, and the motives of the local police and politicians in this seemingly insignificant and tranquil Georgian town for attempting to cover the whole thing up. Margrave serves as an atmospheric backdrop where winding plots lead to intense conclusions and some sick, twisted torture killings, which go into much more graphic detail than what is described and shown in the Amazon series. We're talking about innocent people being forced to eat their own private parts whilst being crucified with nail guns upon their own living room walls. You know, proper horror movie stuff. There's some sick prison violence, including a moment where Reacher takes on an entire gang of white supremacists and slowly narrates his own badassery. There's plenty of ballistic weaponry and a huge warehouse showdown with dirty counterfeiters that ends in a ball of fire and heads exploding into chunks of meat and red mist. And it's by no means the series' last moment like this. Killing Floor is renowned for its compelling pacing and features a reserved protagonist who employs force to achieve moral objectives when the usual societal systems have failed to protect the vulnerable. Reacher is a character from outside the fringes of society that uses his brains as much as his fists, and a lot of the time throughout the book he's putting together clues, following leads and testing out theories. This is a detective story basically, except this detective looks like he could take on Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and win.
3 men dropped this body.
Enlighten me.
Shooter was someone who knows firearms well. Bullets were small caliber, 9mm, 95 grain, that's subsonic. A silencer was used. He also knew enough to pick up his brass. This wasn't a first-timer. This was someone who knew how to conduct a quiet, effective kill.
This novel marked the first time that the story was narrated from Reacher's perspective. After this, Lee Child switched to a different narrative point of view from the second book onwards, but eventually returned to Reacher's perspective later on. Personally, I find it more engaging to delve into Reacher's mind, as it allows readers to understand his motivations and immerse themselves in his worldview. This approach combines random yet significant encounters with his encyclopedic musical knowledge and the calculated decisions he makes. Despite the series spanning 28 novels and counting, and running for close to 3 decades, this first novel is still considered by many fans of the series to be the best Jack Reacher book, and it resulted in multiple awards and accolades for Lee Child, including the Anthony and Barry Awards for Best First Novel. Killing Floor establishes the foundational Jack Reacher thriller novel, setting the stage for Lee Child's future success. The original and, if not the best, then at least the best at being first at being Reacher. So probably, maybe, the one you should read first. Highest possible recommendation on this book. Differences between the book and the Amazon series. Although Reacher Season 1 on Amazon was a faithful adaptation of Killing Floor, there are several significant differences. Whilst the primary story elements remain consistent, the showrunners made a few adjustments to better suit the medium and to reflect on the contemporary time period. For instance, in Reacher Season 1, the character carries a passport, which he did not do in Killing Floor. Traditionally, Reacher only carries cash and a folding toothbrush, preferring to avoid any form of identification if possible. However, following the events of 9/11, Lee Child reluctantly included the passport in Reacher's list of belongings in later books, and it is this inspiration from these later books that we see Reacher with a passport in the TV series. Also, to maintain the plausibility of the plot over time, the explanation of the counterfeiting operation in Reacher, the TV show, was updated. In the 1990s, banknotes over $2 began to include magnetic strips, which would affect the plan that was in Killing Floor, where counterfeiters were cleaning $1 bills and reprinting them as $100 bills. A minor adjustment was made for the Amazon adaptation, where Reacher makes an observation that the counterfeiters are reprinting the bills as early 1990s $100 bills in order to bypass this newer security feature. Several differences between the book and the series are intentional, designed to surprise the audience and to establish a foundation for a longer running series. For instance, altering the identity of the main antagonist serves to surprise viewers who might have already read the book. We also get an early inclusion of Neagley, a character from the original Jack Reacher novels, but one that didn't appear until the 2002 book Without Fail, the 6th installment in the series. By bringing Neagley in as early as part of Reacher Season 1, we get another connection to Reacher's past by introducing a character who is not only his equal, but also one of a small number of people that Reacher trusts. It also means that the showrunners have already set up another character that the audience can relate to and can recur throughout each season of Reacher. Further to this, the characters of Finley and Roscoe have a lot more to do in the TV show than they did in the book. The TV series provides more information about Reacher's past compared to the original book. In Killing Floor, Reacher briefly discusses his relationship with his brother, but his past is not explored extensively. The series includes additional details about his backstory, incorporating elements from later Jack Reacher books. These changes are presented primarily through flashbacks, which provide a little more content about Reacher and Joe's shared youth. This is further demonstrated by an old war medal amongst the few items that Reacher carries. The medal, a gift from their mother, acknowledges bravery and provides additional detail about their family relationship beyond what is covered in Killing Floor, and is explored in more depth later in Lee Child's series. Now, given that Lee Child not only made a cameo appearance in the show, but also acted as an executive producer, it can be reasonably concluded that he endorsed most of these modifications. Furthermore, it was from watching this series that piqued my interest in reading the books in the first place, so it certainly indicates its effectiveness from that standpoint, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that decided to read the books upon watching season 1 of this show. So in conclusion, I'll certainly be back for more Reacher reviews. I have promised myself that I would read more books in 2025. I made a conscious effort to do so in 2024, and I intend to continue that this year. And a lot of books that I am planning on reading this year will indeed be Jack Reacher ones. So do be sure to look out for further book reviews. In the meantime, if you have enjoyed this particular video, then please do leave a like and a comment, and do be sure to check out some of my other videos. Please could you also consider sharing this video across your social media platforms, and whilst you're at it, you're welcome to follow me at mine. I am currently on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And finally, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and do ring that notification bell in order to see future videos. So, thank you very much for visiting the Big Daddy D Reviews, and we'll see you again next time.